Ahoy hoy. Ahoy hoy. You're lactose intolerant? Oh man, what a revelation. What it do, what it do. Oh yeah, you're making your first dispensary trip tomorrow. That's nice. Good for you, buddy. In your car because you don't have power. Oof. You poor fucking Texans, bro. That whole area of the world going to shit. I escaped Louisiana for many of the same reasons. Well, I guess not the same reasons. I didn't have power outages every fucking day. I wasn't freezing in the winter or anything, but I was in the cone of it was 8 major hurricanes in 2020. Don't you tell me what to do. Don't you give me no fucking guff or lip. Pick a number between 1 and 100. Gotta pick 100. You always gotta pick 100. That's the key. Always aim high. Dude, if I had a fart on deck, I would for you, but can't do it. What's up, Timothy? What's poppin'? Chris McDougal. What the fuck is that shit, man? What the fuck is that shit, bro? Thank you. I guess I chose right. I guess I did, because tonight was the right night to aim high for the Air Force. Well, I appreciate you, friend. Thank you. Did I just start? I just started, yes, about 3 minutes ago. We hit the go button on what I was thinking was going to be maybe an inadvisable stream. It's a little late for my usual stream shenanigans, but I don't know. I had a weird day today, so. Had a weird fucking day. Well, I appreciate it, sir. The faithful are here. DJ's party was awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Peyton. I'm glad to hear that. TJ deserves a good celebration. You got to celebrate every year till you're 40, and then you just have to quit. It gets cringy if you're still doing birthdays after 40. I'm kidding. Most people do them every year. I'm just trying to make up new rules in hopes that the whole birthday thing will go away. Have you ever had alcohol poisoning? No. I don't know. I've never had to go to the hospital for it. Let's put it that way. There are probably times where I was teetering on the edge of alcohol poisoning. You got like an hour and a half drive. Well, hopefully you're being safe. My streaming shenanigans, yes. Got a new job working at a crematory, and it pays good, but it's depressing as fuck. I mean, you got a job at a fucking crematory. What did you expect? It was going to be sunshine and goddamn fucking roses every day you went to work? You work at a place where they burn people's dead relatives and pets and shit. Like, you can't. I mean, that's going to be a depressing job. I've got a crematory in my pants, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. I don't know what I mean. I hope you know what I mean, because I don't know what the fuck I mean. I stole your joke? How did I steal your joke? I didn't see you make no goddamn joke. Remember the first time I saw Cadaver in Cadaver Lab? Honestly, not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. TJ's never seen Porky's, huh? Well, yeah, I don't know. I've only seen I want to say I've only seen 3 dead bodies in my entire life. I saw a dead body of my uncle when I was younger. I was probably like 11 or so, or 12 when he died. It was the first dead body I saw at his funeral. And I remember being pretty disturbed by it. Like, not, he didn't look bad or nothing, but it was just knowing that the vessel that once carried him was there, but he was no longer there. It was very strange. And then the second, I guess the next funeral I went to, where I saw my next 2 dead bodies, was a double funeral. It was horrible. Horrible. Like, it has to be like the worst fucking funeral, because like my uncle, like, that's one thing. I mean, it was horrible for his family, but he was an older guy, he had issues. People saw it coming. The other 2 dead bodies I saw were of young men. They were younger than I was at the time. Man, I'll never forget that shit. I think I've told you guys that story before, but oof. And man, we went to a few open casket funerals when I was in grade school. It was weird. We went to funerals for the parishioners as school kids, and it wasn't really like people we knew. Yeah, that's strange. I've never been to a funeral of somebody I didn't know. I guess that's not true. I went to a funeral for my ex-wife's like grandpa, who I had never met, but it wasn't an open casket situation. It was just like a memorial service or whatever the fuck. Catholic girls. guys might have guessed, but I'm a devout Catholic to this day. I see. I see. Okay, that's good. Feel myself pondering what an accidental death would feel like more often than healthy. Yeah, death is a weird thing for me. On one hand, I kind of barrel forward heedless of it, clearly, being a fat, smoking fuck. But on the other hand, I think about it every day. You know, not necessarily in a fearful way, but like, it dawns on me quite often, like, this could be it for you. Today could be it. This could be your last day on the planet. You might just croak today. You might just have a stroke today. A plane engine might fall through your house today and crush you. I don't know how unhealthy that is to think of constantly, but I do. Understood, Doug. Yeah, mortality. Tough subject. I didn't choose it, but that's the way it works. I mean, that's, you know, you got to get used to the fact, but you also don't have to, like, inundate yourself in it. I'm sure Duck knows what death is. He doesn't need to go through the grisly details of death. I guess that seems like what we're going to talk about, at least at the beginning of this. Pulmonary embolism doesn't come out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't say... Never mind. Whatever, bro. Whatever, Dr. Chat. I love Dr. Chat, dude. There's always 25 doctors on hand. My grandfather from Finland passed recently, was cremated, we spread his ashes over his favorite fishing spots, and the rest went to Finland. That's cool. That was good of you guys to honor his wishes. I was not saying he does either. I don't know. This is going to be considered inundating oneself with the topic of death. Defining that is pretty subjective. Yeah, no. I mean, some people just don't like fucking talking about it. Like, I get it. Or, you know, there's different mindsets and stuff. Like, I'm never really in the mindset where I can't discuss death. But I don't have the same mindset as everybody, you know? There are certain things that, you know, there are days where I don't want to fucking talk about it. It's a hard subject, but honestly, for me, I think about death often. Yeah, me too. Some people are too stupefied by the existential horror to consider death. Some people, yeah. It can be that way. I know I feel that way sometimes. Ugh. But I stop short of being unable to consider death. Death isn't scary. It's the mystery of how it will happen that's frightening. Right. It's not death that's scary. It's dying that is really scary. Death is, you know. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to think about it. You go, you have a good run, you have some ups and downs, you have some laughs and some tears and some heartbreak and some lessons, and you put a little bit of yourself out into the world, and then you keel over, and that's it for you. You had your shot, and into the fucking dustbin of history you go with every other fucking creature that's died. And you could choose a way to die when your time comes. What would it be? I've already answered that, man. I want to be buck naked except for some goggles, and I want to be taken up in a plane as high as they'll let me, and I want to jump out right over an active volcano, and the whole way down I want to beat off, and right as I hit the volcano I want to bust my final nut and impregnate the volcano. I mean, if I get to choose, why would I choose something like quietly in my sleep? You're asking me how I want to go out. That's the way. Sounds painful, only for a second. Only for a millisecond, really. I mean, you fall at full speed right into the active fucking mouth of a volcano. You're not really gonna feel much, other than the nut that you about to bust in that volcano. Yeah, this rooster. I mean, bruh. I mean, dawn is like a good 8 hours away, probably 6, 7 hours away. They're fucking going. Roosters are idiots, yeah. Shoes. 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 I've always wanted my ashes shot out of a cannon. That's whatever, dude. Just quit with it. Quit with it, quit with it. Get sentimental with it or something, but don't, you know, like, you're not gonna fucking care whether your ashes get shot out of a fucking cannon or not. How long do I sleep for? Until I'm done sleeping. I don't know. I don't sleep much more than 6 or 8 hours usually. The last few days I've been sleeping way more. Been going through a little bout of the old depression for the last couple of days. I had a day today where I had this thought in my head, like, I feel like just laying in bed and throwing my blanket over my head. And that's basically what I did today. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had a day off today, and I basically just curled up in my bed and I threw a blanket over my fucking head, and I wallowed in my own depression, basically. It happens. I mean, what are you going to do? I have these days. They come and they go. After this passes, I'll try and figure out a triggering event. When you're in the midst of a depressive episode like I have been, it's really hard to pinpoint. Like, all right, well, what triggered all this? What was what started you down that road? Like, when you're in the midst of it, thinking about that is a waste of time, for me at least. Get out of it, the brain fog lifts, and then you go like, oh, okay, yeah. This happened, or that happened, or whatever it was. You find that triggering event, and I never waste my time thinking on what started it. I don't think that's a waste of time, bro. I think if you want to learn about yourself, learn about your mental health, learning what triggers your depression and your anxiety is a pretty smart thing to do. What time it be where I'm at? It's 4 a.m. where you're at. It's about o'clock here, give or take. There's nothing wrong with introspection. Yeah. I just mean the particular incident. I agree. You got to get to the roots. Yeah. Yeah. The incident. I mean, what's there to think about? I used to carry a lot of guilt for these. I still do, honestly, because I become pretty much non-functional as a partner or whatever the fuck, relationship wise. I'm just like a lump of human misery that stays in bed. And I know that radiates into other people's mental states, so it can be tough to be around me when I'm like this. But I am what I am, man. I can't be what I'm not, and I'm very lucky to be with a person who's super understanding of me. Has struggles of her own and is not judgmental when I have days like this. I have a similar problem in getting out of bed. Sometimes you just can't. I mean, today I got out of bed. I came out here. I did a stream. I had a cup of coffee. And usually when I finish those up, I feel like, all right, my engine for the day is started. And I'll go and I'll do something. And today it was just like, my first thought when I ended the stream was, I want to go lay in my bed and throw a blanket over my fucking head. And that's what I did. Laid in my bed. I turned on an Audible book. I didn't really sleep. I think I might have napped a little bit here and there, but like for the most part, I was just kind of laying there blank-minded, with the covers pulled up over my head. Dinor always is in bed when I'm in bed, so loyal little guy that he is, he spent most of his day laid right next to me. Does that sound? Yeah, I mean, under different circumstances, I'd probably feel the same. Yeah, I mean, I've got issues with that too. Like, I've lost whole ass fucking important ass friendships to this disease of mine. Relationships. It's taken its toll in my life for sure. I've had people that I was really close to rightfully decide that, they didn't feel like that the relationship was a balanced one. The friendship was a balanced one because when they needed me, I wasn't there. And, or couldn't be there or whatever. Wouldn't be there. Whatever it is. And, you can't blame people. How did your depression destroy your relationships? I mean, it takes two to tango for a relationship to be destroyed, but I'm just saying that I know that my depression contributed to many of my failed long-term relationships. My inability to break out of cyclical bouts of this type of depression, coupled with my anxiety, has had nothing but a deleterious and negative effect on most relationships that I've had, whether they be friendships or otherwise. How does Dinor affect your mental health if he does at all? He's my best little bud. He's my little shadow. Like, the only reason he's not with me now is because Amelia's inside and asleep, and he likes to be in bed with whoever's in bed. But he's my little bro. he, you know, I don't know. I depend on him a lot. Let's put it that way. I depend on him at least as much as he depends on me. Depression makes you cranky and creates extra emotional labor for the other person. Yeah, and that's why I get so standoffish, just because I know that on days like this, like I have a very, very well-known proclivity to allow my depression to like affect me in ways where I'll say things to people that I don't mean. I'll say things that are mean. I'll react in a way that's like not kind or not considerate of another person's feelings. I'll push a person away in a way that's very off-putting, yada, yada, yada. And if I'm forced into interaction on days like that, I'll pick fights. And so what I've learned as time has gone on is that it's best to try your best to explain to, whoever has to deal with it, what's going on, and that it's probably best to just let you be for the most part. And then, because when I stay out away from people, I can't lash out. Thanks, Najoza, for the $5. Toot toot. Sounds like a train. Here comes the peace train. I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come. Relatively close to the tracks. Not super on top of them, but close enough that when I'm sitting out here in the backyard and one goes by, it's relatively loud. You hate the train sound? How do you hate the train sound? Train sounds are awesome. Chugga 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 chugga. This one might not be YouTube's fault, actually, Joanne. The topics have not exactly been like sunshine and roses tonight. A lot of people might have like clicked and been like, nope. Death and depression have been on the slate. Do you blow up on people and say horrible things you don't mean? How do you atone for that when it happens? I mean, I'll be honest with you, it hasn't happened in a while for me. It has been, I don't know. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but it's been a long time. It's been over a year for me since I really blew up at somebody that I cared about in a way that was totally inappropriate. And I've made really, really strong strides towards not being that kind of person anymore. I've been trying lately to dial back, or at least focus the anger a little better, because I have a tendency to be a bit scattershot with my anger. Anger has to be expressed. It's like any other emotion, and it's unhealthy to swallow it. But when you have a tendency towards anger because of other mental problems, you really have to fucking. It's like that. It's like that movie, fucking what you call it, A Beautiful Mind, right? Where he talks about, I prefer to think of it as a diet of the mind. It's kind of that same idea. When I feel that anger is justified and necessary and helps to prove a point, I let it flow. And when I feel it isn't justified, I don't. Or at least I'm trying to tend towards a person who doesn't. This is one of those things that like makes it hard to be a public personality because semi-public, I'm not claiming to, I'm no Kanye fucking West or anything. People watch me. There have been people watching me for years and years. People pay very close attention to the way that I am, but they don't know what's behind it. And I've explained probably more to you than a lot of people in my position do, but still, you gotta, be around me for a while to really understand what the fuck I'm talking about. And I think it creates a lot of presumptions. It's like when you're a very opinionated person, people presume you are how you are because of X, Y, or Z. And they can presume that that anger is righteous or some sort of entertainment or any number of things. But the source of it can be various different things. It's hard to explain. I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you, too. A lot of what's happened recently in the world has changed the way that I think about things and the way I want to be as a person. I feel like when the world was blithely, ignorantly going on, I felt much more comfortable being an agent of anger amongst people and vitriol. And now, every time I do it, I feel uncomfortable. Well, maybe not every time, but many times that I do it, I feel like, well, you just put a big old dollop of negativity on the negativity Sunday. I mean, look how much death this last fucking 12 months has brought upon this nation and this world. How much division and anger and war and suffering and fucking nonsense there is in this world, and I just squeeze out another dollop of it. Like you said in this last stream, ultimately anger is an outward expression of pain and frustration. It's the expression of the frustration of the fact that people are suffering, people don't care. Sure. That doesn't mean I won't get mad. That doesn't mean you won't hear me be dismissive or angry or say vitriolic things, but I think it's important to tell you guys that I'm trying to do better on that. And I don't know what that means for how people will perceive me or whatever. I don't necessarily think it'll come with some giant, massive shift in personality. I'm still going to be the same fucking asshole I've always been, but maybe I'm slightly more, not necessarily considerate overall, but considerate of what I say. There's more reasons for it too. It's like, you know, I'm kind of cursed to have a job that funnels me towards politics, and at least discussion of politics. And I saw something happen last year, late last year, early this year, that, I mean, fucking, it changed my mind on how I should address people on the other side. And it was not out of fear that they'll do some kind of insurrection, but just out of the fucking difference that I see now when it comes to partisan rancor in this country. I just see people lobbing bombs at one another now. It's like that used to happen on TV. There used to be TV people that would get and lob bombs at each other, and people would watch that. But then they would get together with their friends, and politics pretty much melted away. At least that was my experience subjectively. Growing up, politics wasn't something people were going to come to fucking blows over. And now we're at a point in this country where it's like half of the country hates the other half to the point of wanting to do violence to them, possibly, or split away from them, or at the very least, do nothing but hurl invective at them and otherize them to the point of not even be able to have a conversation anymore. And I'm like, I don't want to be an agent of that anymore. Like, I don't want to engage in that kind of shit anymore. Not in that way. But I don't know how else to be politically. My political voice is one that is rooted very deeply in, like, the populist voice, which is angry, frustrated, exasperated, disgusted. I don't know. I might just be fucking rambling about nothing. I don't know if anything that's coming out of my mouth right now is making sense, to be quite honest with you. As I said a little earlier, my mental state is not the greatest. You'll have to excuse me. It's difficult to I'm not talking about staying positive, man. See, this is the thing. It's like I feel like I have to learn how to walk this tightrope in a better way, and I don't really have many role models for it. I don't have somebody that I can look up to show me the right way to do this, but I can't be some fucking smiley faced, how you doing, brother optimist. I'm just not built that way, dude. I'm not trying to shit on people that are that way, but that's not me. I can't be that which I'm not. I'm a pessimist at heart. I see truth in pessimism. I see philosophical insight in pessimism that a lot of people dismiss. And I can't change that about myself. I also can't change about myself that I'm very fucking angry and frustrated and exasperated and sickened and heartsick by what's happened to the country since I was a child. And I'm not claiming that this country was some kind of fucking great thing when I was born in 1980, but let me tell you something. Something has changed in that 40 years about the way that we deal with one another, about how there's not a baseline respect that's extended to a human being, about how much we allow these news talking head type personalities to inform how we interact with other people. Like, I I think that sometimes people see me shitting on people in here, and that's how they go deal with people in their real life. And I'm like, what kind of chain of fucking shit have I started? And I don't even know if a lot of the people that do what I do are even fucking thinking about it. How many people take your expression of frustration as an illustrative point and take it out into the world and just add it to their own pile of fucking anger and use it to push a person further away and push a whole group of people further away and take it out into the world and start lobbing missiles at people with it? And it's just like, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to do this right. I'm going to be completely fucking honest with you guys. I know that the popular thing is for people like me who talk philosophy and talk politics to come to you and tell you, I got a plan. I know my place and I know where I'm going and I know where we're going and I know what we should do. And I know what all the best answers to the questions are. At very least, I have a good idea or a good basis. I don't, guys. I don't know. I'm kind of out here flapping in the fucking wind because I do not know what to do. I don't know what the right course of action is. I don't know if it's like, is it better off for me if I just pull back from politics completely? Because it's clear that my message does nothing but stir up enmity in people, or very often does at the very least. It definitely does not make me the popular kid on the block. I don't really care to be that, but on the other hand, it makes you pretty ineffectual. And I don't know if what I put into it in terms of thought and expenditure of emotional energy is worth it. On the other hand, I can't imagine being fucking quiet right now. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised to sit by and watch injustice and be silent about it. I wasn't raised to see common sense and not call it out when it needs to be implemented. I wasn't raised to see exploitation and be okay with it. And not only was I not raised to be that way, but I didn't grow into a man that was that way either. And I can't turn into a man that's that way now. There's no tuned out Paul in the future. So what is it? What do I do? How do I come at this? Because believe it or not, I don't want to push people away. Not like immediately at the very least. I want people to at least hear me out before they're pushed. And I feel like oftentimes that you don't get that far. The map is not the territory, yeah. I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't know how much of this makes any sense, but it's where I'm at. It's the best I can articulate where I'm at. I just feel lost. I want to help. Ultimately, that's what's at the core of it. I want to help. I want to help people. I want to do more than just stuffing a box at a food bank. I want people to know that they have power. I want workers to know that they have immense power. I want them to take back some of what was taken from my parents and my generation and your generation. And I want them to see that And I want them to feel that power, and I want them to feel it at a time where they need to feel it. I've never felt more powerless than I feel right now. Texas is literally just dying on the vine. What can you do? Send some money? Nation is just overflowing with COVID cases, people dying left and right, going on 600,000 people. There's war and rumors of war. It's just, and I've been dealing with it my entire political life. Paul, are you familiar with the idea of loci of control? Not really, no. I mean, I've heard the term before, but are the vaccines going to kick in soon? I don't know. You're asking the wrong dude. We have a massive worldwide communication network. For some reason, we can't coordinate a labor movement. I don't know what's preventing us. I know what's preventing us. What's preventing us is that over the course of the last 3 or 4 generations, people have been convinced that unions are a bad thing and that they're better off taking whatever the corporate people give them. And they've been slowly but surely taken to this point where, like, losing a job is no longer just, well, got to go find another job. Now it's like, oh my fucking God, my life has disappeared out from under me. It didn't used to be such, but now it is. We've gotten to the point now where people are so utterly dependent on the hand-to-mouth paycheck that they get from their job that they can't think of defying. They can't think of possibly risking being fired or losing pay. That's what's stopping it. That and the fact that there's nobody with massive amounts of money to infuse into this idea to make the structural parts of it happen, to put in place that safety net for people so they don't have to worry about losing their jobs, to pay to train and pay the salaries of infiltrators to get into these factories and slowly start agitating for unionization. The answer to that, I wish I had a ringing cash register sound. It's just cash. It's just money. And if I poured every dollar that I have saved up into it, we wouldn't even get one person hired and trained, let alone paid. You know what I mean? So I can't do it. And it's so fucking frustrating to me because I know that that's all it needs. It just needs somebody that's rich, that isn't an evil fuck, to hear the right voice, whether it's mine or somebody else advocating for the same or similar things, and to realize that this needs to happen. And I don't know how to reach that person. I'm definitely not the guy you want calling donors and shit. I'm good in a managerial role, but you don't want to send me out to schmooze. Join a union? There's no union in existence for the job that I work. At least not one that is anything other than a token fucking union. Paul, what do you think that life in the U.S. and the West in general is basically comfortable enough for most people that they aren't really invested in change? I don't even really think it's that anymore. I don't even really think it's comfort anymore. I think that we are literally afraid to be destitute. I think that we have bought into the capitalist idea of the haves and have-nots so intently that we believe that if we don't conform to this very, very narrow definition of a human life, that we will be fucking living under a bridge. And you know what? That's reality here. That's reality in this country for more people now than it ever has been. The homeless problem in this country is fucking exploded, and you hardly ever hear it talked about. Exploded. People lost their jobs who are hand to mouth, and now they're living in tent cities. This shit is real. Eventually those trains will stop. Yep. One of these days. I don't know when. But I'm telling you guys, like, I had an experience the other day, and it may have set this off because it set off a round of negative thinking about, like, we've entered a new phase of this collapse. I've been preaching collapse to you guys for years and years and years and years. This idea that we're living in the midst of a slow unraveling of social norms and social services. And I was reading the news the other day, and I read about this family standing out, like this entire group of families standing out, watching everything they owned burn to the ground. And firefighters couldn't help them because it was in San Antonio, Texas, and all of the water lines were frozen. So they couldn't even spray water on it. I went out the other day. I know I talked a little bit about this in another stream, so you'll forgive the repetition, but it was part of my thought process that led me to this kind of existential place I'm in. I went to go get something done that's very simple and very normal in the United States. I don't know how normal it is other places, but I went to go get a document notarized. This is something, it's like a government witness to your signature to make sure that you're not somebody who you aren't when you sign important documents like title transfers and mortgage statements and blah, 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 right? Or start the mortgage contracts is what I meant. Anyway, doesn't matter. I had to get a document notarized. I had to go to find a notary public. That's what the people that do this are called. This is a very common job in the United States. They're everywhere. They have to be, because in order to get anything done in the United States, you have to get paperwork notarized. And so I went into town, and I went to a UPS with a big neon notary sign in the window, and I walked in there, and I said, hey, yeah, I need to get a document notarized and mailed out. Oh, our notary's not here till Friday. I was like, this is UPS. Don't you guys have notary every day? She goes, yeah, but our guy's not here till Friday. And then from the back, a lady goes, oh, no, it's Monday. This was like Wednesday. And I was like, okay. Do you know of any place that's doing notary in town? Oh, yeah, there's this place down there. So I drove, a mile and a half through town, get to this other place. It's literally called Notary and More. I walk into that place. I go up to the counter. I say, I have a document that needs to be notarized. And the chick running the counter looked at me like I was an alien. And she goes, we don't do notary. And I just pointed at the sign up over my shoulder. And she was like, yeah, our notary quit 3 months ago, and we just don't do it. So after 2 tries, I found a place that was actually a place that was set up to help migrant workers with their fucking paperwork and shit, that happened to have a notary in it. And that place was able to get my document notarized. So I'm talking about something that you just can't do business in the United States as a normal fucking citizen without, that just wasn't available basically in my town. The slow unraveling of these social norms and social services. I know it may not seem like a lot, but I'm just saying. The slow unraveling of social norms, the slow fraying at the edges of comfort and stability that's provided by the power structure that we all live under is eroding. And it's starting to disappear, and with it is coming uncertainty and certainly upheaval at some point. It's starting to get real scary out there, guys. I mean, yeah, that's why it's scary to me, Joanne, because I can see the direct line from, hey, there's nobody doing notary in town anymore, to, hey, the grocery store's not open every day, to, hey, grocery stores are closing. You know what I mean? Now when you call 911, you get a doo-doo-doo. We're sorry, due to call volume. You know what I mean? Just the slow but sure erosion of social norms. Societal collapse is rarely instant. We're in a 100-year collapse comparable to the fall of Rome and the Bronze Age collapse, yes. I'm not even 21 yet, and I'm absolutely terrified of what my future is in the U.S. I don't want to be a wage slave, and I don't want to be a homeless or starved to death. I feel you. I feel you on both counts. And I don't know what to tell you. That's really what drives me insane, is that I don't know what to tell you. And a lot of people will criticize me with that for that. And I guess maybe rightfully so. Well, Paul doesn't have a plan. Maybe there is no plan. Maybe there's no way to plan our way out of this. Uh-oh. And I wish I could give you guys that certainty like some other fucking people do. I wish I could be a personality that goes to you and here's how we fix things. This is the process by which we fix things. And here's the historical precedent to prove that this can be fixed. I'm not that guy. I don't believe those things. Mendacious C is here. Should always have a plan for yourself. Sure, but whatever. You see what I mean. I can't, as a guy that talks philosophy and politics a lot, give you guys some kind of fucking, here's what we do. I mean, I can give you some ideas, but I don't have the certainty to give you. The world we live in, metaphorically, that story you just told about the families watching their lives burn with frozen water lines. Yeah, I mean, I was just blown away by that. I saw that the same day that I couldn't find a fucking notary public in a reasonably sized town. I was like, okay. Capitalism is just feudalism with extra rules and regulations. It's the same shit. Oh, you're not a serf, you're a renter now. You're not a peasant farmer, you're an employee. It's like the crown has changed heads, but the song remains the same. Especially when the government requires things to be notarized. Well, no public offices do it. Our city hall does it. I mean, I didn't, I'm sure there was probably a couple of different places I could have gone to get it done, but all of the normal places where people run in and get this done really quick, closed, done, not working. It's like totally mundane, totally not life-threatening, but scary as fuck if you know about being an adult in America. It'll become DMV or Social Security situation where you can't get it, but it takes 6 hours for no reason. I mean, it's already at that. While I was looking for the place that I eventually found, I saw the Social Security office in my town, and there was a line down the block to get into it because of COVID restrictions. Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh. I don't know if that's close enough for you guys to hear. Got ourselves a little mariachi going on tonight. It just seems like people can't agree with each other enough to get anything done. There isn't a simple solution to any problem you can come up with where nobody will try to stop you. Well, no. I mean, I'm not even saying that there's a simple solution to this. I don't even know what the complex solution to this is. I don't think there is one. I think that as our society and civilization is collapsing, so is the environment. It's happening in tandem. This is like unprecedented in the history of the world. It would be like if the Roman Empire fell and a new ice age started at the same time. Or, some other comparable, complete and utter climate shift globally. Yeah, there's definitely a neighbor that chills with mariachi on the weekends, which I'm cool with. I grew up around it, so. Hey, Paul, Ozzy here. Our city has a breach in hotel quarantine. We had 13 cases over 4 days. Did a 5-day lockdown while contact tracking went ahead, and now we're all clear. Isn't that crazy? Must be crazy to live in a government that actually takes COVID restrictions somewhat seriously. Because, what was it? 6 days ago, I was eating in a restaurant, outdoors, at a rest stop that was packed with people. And COVID is wildly out of control where I live. Go fig. Climate change won't likely be the end of our civilization, but it'll be a mess. I mean, you understand what climate collapse is, right? You understand that, like, the most comparable climate collapse that we have in the historical record killed 99% of all life on the planet. We basically went from a planet that was vibrant with life to a planet that had algae and jellyfish living on it. Yeah, our civilization is doomed. It's collapsing now, just not like it does in the movies. You know what I mean? It's hard to cover 100 years worth of time in the movies, but we're about 20 years, by my reckoning, into the collapse. I don't know how many more years it's going to take for it to happen, but we're on our way down and out. And climate change is only going to ensure that. It's going to hasten it, if anything. So I don't know where you get your optimism for the future of modern civilization from, but I do not share it. Most life going extinct doesn't sound like a bad thing. Universally, it's not. Universally, it's not even fucking noticeable. Life finds a way. Climate change is about to drop the ultimate diss track. It's dropping it right now. Dropped it on Texas. Continues to drop it. Dropped it on my fucking ass last year when I sat in the cone of 8 major hurricanes. A record, by the way. Broke the record that was set the year before in 2019, which was 6. I try to talk to people about this, and they just tell me more people will move closer to the poles and life will go on. Whatever. People have no fucking conceptualization of what's going to happen. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Now I want to ask you guys a question. Are most large countries in this world bristling with nuclear weapons and other kinds of weapons? Tanks, planes, guns, bombs, gas, nerve agents, viral agents, etc. Are they or aren't they? Yay or nay? I'll let you guys puzzle over that. They have those things or do they not have those things? I see a yes in the chat. Even if that's the only one I get, I'll assume you all know that they are bristling with these weapons. Okay? When climate change starts to make scarcity a thing, chasing people away from the coastal regions, mass migration inland, destruction of farmland, destruction of production facilities, guess what's going to happen? Resource wars. We're talking about kind of like the wars that America has prosecuted to geopolitically position itself to have control over an ever larger part of the oil supply. But for food, for clean water, for coal, for paper, for whatever it is that fucking country has that we don't have, or you don't have, or they don't have. You see what I'm saying? Apocalyptic. We're talking about an apocalyptic war. An insanely apocalyptic war. In the midst of climate change. You don't believe nukes in particular will be used. I think people will understand it's not a good idea. Do you realize that India was on the brink of nuking Pakistan? And I mean, literally had their fucking finger on the button and were about to launch nukes at Pakistan, like, what was it, 10 years ago? This is not a joke. It's happening again. Somebody's going to use them. A weapon like a nuke begs to be used. I've said this before. They cry out from inside of their concrete tombs to be launched. And somebody's going to do it someday. And when somebody does it, somebody else is going to do it. And then you see what happens. Shoo, 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 shoo. You don't make a weapon with that much potential energy to not use it. A gun is made to shoot at things. A bomb is made to be dropped. A jet is made to be flown and drop those bombs or shoot at other jets. A missile is made to be fired from a missile launcher. A nuke is meant to be launched from a nuclear silo or submarine or dropped from an airplane. A weapon sitting and rusting into the ground makes nobody any money. Yeah, a nuke takes care of the AoE. I always wondered, someone once hacked Donald Trump's Twitter account once by guessing his password. Imagine if that hacker tweeted out something like, "We were launching a nuke strike against China." I mean, yeah, something like that could have happened. Something like that could happen now. You guys remember a few years ago when everybody in Hawaii was scrambling for fucking bomb shelters and basements and doorways and shit because they were told a nuclear strike was imminent? And nobody in the US knew it was fake until the last second? How close do you think we were to launching the nukes then? You guys ever heard of the Cuban Missile Crisis? See, all this, like, I don't think nukes will be used. You need to fucking learn your history, bro. Look into the Cuban Missile Crisis and look at how close the United States was to nuclear war with the Soviet Union and its allies. The Soviet Union was stashing nuclear missiles on Cuba. And the president was fucking a cunt hair away from ordering a fucking strike on those. A preemptive nuclear strike on the nuke sites to send a message. There was a whole fucking embargo that happened where Russian warships and American warships were in a standoff. American warships blocking off the fucking Cuban island. You know how close we were to hot fucking nuclear war? No, this was in the 60s, Joanne. During President John F. Kennedy's administration. I'm just saying, like, anybody out there that thinks that, like, the world being a nuclearized nightmare is not an eventual fucking death sentence for this species doesn't know how close we've been already. Yep, Gorbachev was giving orders for Russian captains to plow the blockade and engage the enemy forces. That would have been hot war, and Kennedy would have absolutely launched the missiles. Orders were disobeyed. And the commanding officer at the scene read the fucking writing on the wall and saw the end of humanity and decided not to order the ill-fated charge that would have ended it. That close. And that's not the only time. Go look into it. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked at how many times the world has teetered on the edge of nuclear war. Nukes will never be destroyed, Peyton. Because how do you trust that all nukes have been destroyed? Ah, yes, comrade, we have destroyed all our nukes. See, here they are. Boom, they are gone. No more nukes. Now you do same. Do you think they really destroyed all their nukes? Probably not. We should probably keep a bunch secret. Okay, yeah. Well, here's our nukes. We're going to destroy those. Give me a break, Peyton. Never going to happen. Like I said, these weapons cry out from their concrete tombs to be launched. And one day they will. You decommission the nuke and create a dump site for the fissile material in it that is irradiated for the next 10,000 years. You don't really have to imagine. If you want to look at something that was pretty fucking close to a small nuke, look at that fucking dock explosion where a bunch of ammonium nitrate went up right downtown. Where was that again? What country did that happen again? I'm trying to remember. It just happened like last year. Lebanon, thank you. Yeah, it was in Beirut, right downtown, right by the docks. Watch that. Fucking insane. Now I've become death, destroyer of worlds. We're all just asleep in history class. I don't think all of them were, but I think just, not like a lot of people have been kind of lulled in this sense of false security about them because they've heard news stories about nuclear de-armament and shit. That shit never happened, guys. We still have nuclear missiles pointed at the USSR and every other fucking geopolitical enemy in the country or in the world. And the ones that have missiles all have them pointed at us. You don't think desperation would drive the use of that? You don't think if China decides, hey, you know what, India, fuck you, we're coming. India's not going to go, fuck you, no, you're not. One of the spies in the US that's alleged to have given info to the Soviets on the atom bomb said he did so because he didn't want the US to be the only hegemonic country in the world with that power. Well, I mean, I can understand his position, but what he did was, I mean, eventually, another country was going to figure it out. It was going to happen one way or the other. It happened via espionage, but it was going to happen one way or the other. There's no way that technology was not going to get out. Well, not necessarily. I think the guy saw it as a balancing of power, which it really was. I mean, if the United States was the only place that had these types of weapons and we started using them against all of our enemies, this would be planet United States now. Think about that. Like the USSR would have been put down with just a few bombs and very little ability to do anything about it. Any geopolitical rival of ours could have just had their capital city erased, and then all of what rises up in its place eventually is a fucking American flag, And who knows what that would look like. Just the threat of it would be enough. I mean, just the threat of it is enough still to this day. Yeah, the Golden Arches, dude. Symbol of American hegemony. Thanks, Cloud Massacre, for the diamond. That's a big rock. Jeez Louise. I gotta tell Amelia she's getting an upgrade to that ring. About to plop that rock down. I guess the question of, do you believe that most people in the world would rather die than have their nation conquered? It doesn't even come really down to that. Most people don't get to decide whether the nukes get launched, guy. You don't get a say. It's not like they're going to come to you and be like, extra, extra, read all about it, cast your yes or no nuke ballot. It's not about that. If you think it's about that, you're fucking insane. It's about military tactics. It's about look into the concept of mutually assured destruction. These are launch plans, war games that have been played out on both the United States and Russian side and the Chinese side, doing different scenarios of nuclear strikes in order to see how much damage would be done to the Chinese Republic if a full nuke strike was launched out of India, how long they would have to respond to it, how much damage collaterally that they could do to India with how many nukes, what the chances are that other countries join in and launch their nukes. Of course, it makes no sense. A nuclear war would probably kill only 10% of the world's population at most. Depends on what kind of nuclear war you're talking about. A limited engagement where a nuke is dropped might not even kill 10% of the world's population. A wide engagement where thousands of nukes are launched. Nuclear winter. Secondary causes would kill far more than 10% of the population. So don't get it twisted. Down players of nukes. Did it all for the nukie. That's pretty fucking... That was a pretty... That's almost like dad joke level. Because it's Limp Bizkit, you know? I'm like dad joke age, so I can really hear them, when they happen. I'm of the age where, were I dad, I'd be doing dad jokes a lot more. And it's a dad joke. I'm a dad with no kids. Well, there you go. The shit pisses me off, Paul. I don't believe in evil, but if I did, nukes are. Oh, I'm sorry, Peyton. I didn't mean to take you to a dark place. You had such a good night tonight. Don't let it bring you down, buddy. The nukes probably won't fly today. That's true. I have fur children. I have Dino and Cricket. Peyton. It won't. We had a good time. Everyone just wished you were here. Well, I wished I was there too. That might have been partially why I was a little depressed today, is because I knew that, a long ways away, a lot of my friends were celebrating one of my bestest friends' birthdays. And for the first time in a lot of years, I couldn't be there. And that sucks. But I was there in spirit. I tried to send as many people this morning to go bug TJ about his birthday as I could. Told him to send him individual tweets and shit. And I hope at least 50 of them did or something. Yeah, it sucks. I did not leave Louisiana to get away from my friends, and it was a hard choice because of that. I left Louisiana to get away from the constant threat of hurricanes and the constant nonsense and bullshit of living in Louisiana. It was not an easy decision for me to make, especially during the pandemic when I know that just, me saving up for a couple months and hopping a plane to go visit them for a couple of weeks is just not feasible. So, it sucks. What are you gonna do though? You gotta fucking be decisive in this life. I'll tell you that goddamn much. More is lost by indecision than by incorrect decision. I don't know where that quote's from, but there it is. I know I didn't come up with it. Did TJ pay Scotty on his birthday? No, he didn't. I don't know. Did he? How's it going, Paul, and everybody else? Hello, Vlad. What's a hobby you tried but didn't like? Like when I was in my 20s, I tried to get into building, like, because my dad was into it, and I thought, maybe it would be cool, because I remembered having fun, like, quote unquote, helping him with it every once in a while when I was a kid. He would build like model cars or whatever. You order those kits and you paint them and you put the stickers on them and you put it all together and you yada yada. And at the end of it, you got a pretty cool, 1/10 scale model of a car or whatever. And so I bought some models that I thought were cool, a couple of them, and I just don't have the detail-oriented kind of like mind that's required. Like, can I tell you guys something that's pretty funny about me? I talked up this game, right? This Dyson Sphere project game. And I was playing it and really enjoying myself. It's this game where, I don't know if you've ever played Factorio. It's a game like Factorio. You basically like are on this planet and you mine resources and you build buildings, and eventually you can automate those buildings so that they're mining the resources, and then you can build conveyor belts to feed those resources to other machines that make other products that go to other machines that combine those two products into another product. You know what I mean? It's one of those types of games, right? I was playing this game and I was having a fucking blast. I looked at my city and I was like all proud of it and shit. Well, not city, but my little factory that I had got going. And I was like, man, you know what, dude? I've done pretty good with this. This looks pretty cool. I mean, it's not like, 100% efficient or whatever. I could probably do a little better, but I'm pretty happy that I figured all this out. And then I turned on Twitch like a couple of days ago and I saw Destiny was streaming. And it said he was playing the Dyson Sphere project game. And I was like, oh, I haven't watched Destiny in a minute. I'll check it out. Dude, that motherfucker's... I'll never play the game again. Because I saw what somebody that actually can play the game is supposed to be doing. I don't have the kind of mind to make what he had. Every inch of the ground was covered in perfectly, like, planned out, perfectly, like efficient machines that were just extracting everything on the planet at once, and he was just like hopping around and changing things here and there, and I was like, fuck this. Well, never play that game again. If that's the end game, I can't do that. So, whoops. You know what I mean? I just don't have that kind of brain, man. I'd be a horrible city planner. I'd be a horrible fucking, I don't know, mathematician. I mean, he's not even professionally playing that game, though. He's just got that crazy, I don't know, facility for it that I don't have. Like, he's a StarCraft 2 pro. He's not like a pro gamer. He just played that game casually while he was talking to people and made that. And I sat and spent 6 hours like intently doing nothing else over the course of a week. And dude, it looks like shit. In comparison, it's like horrible. Hey, Paul, how do you manage the long stash? I hate mine. I keep biting it when I eat. Deal with it. Push it out of the way and deal with it. Keep a napkin nearby. Be a man about it. Beards are meant to be chewed. Look. See? Man up. Eat your hair. Now I got a beard hair in my mouth. I deserve it for that. I actually did eat some beard. Gimli used his beard to wipe his face. Yeah. Be like, ugh. I don't have quite enough beard to wipe all the way up to my forehead, though. It's unfortunate. What's your analysis of Paul Atreides as a character in the first Dune book? What ideology do you think is closest to what the book is trying to advocate? I don't really think the book is advocating for an ideology. The book very much mimics, like with high technology, a colonialist kind of environment where there are native peoples being infringed upon. There's a lot of Bedouin themes used in Dune. And so Paul Atreides, if you wanted to look at him philosophically, is a Westerner, a Western imperialist-minded type who is forced into the protection of a Bedouin tribe. I mean, that's the most simplified version of what happens to Paul Atreides. Now, of course, it happens in a sci-fi universe, so there are giant sandworms and, weird clones and spaceships and shit. But you get the drift. I see Paul Atreides as a character who had foist upon him the mantle of leadership in multiple ways. He was the presumed heir to his father's ducal throne, and thus the presumed heir to Arrakis when he arrived. And then all of that went up in a puff of smoke when the Harkonnen and Sardaukar forces bomb the fuck out, use a traitor inside of his compound to basically kill all of House Atreides except for him and his mother. He and his mother escape by the skin of their teeth in an ornithopter into a sandstorm. And when they crash, they're able to make it to a siege of Fremen, who are the aforementioned Bedouin-esque characters. And because Paul Atreides was presaged not only to be a duke, but also to be this genetic perfect being called the Kwisatz Haderach, he wasn't supposed to be. His mother went against her orders to never bear a son, his mother being a member of the Bene Gesserit order, and his father being of a long lineage of carefully genetically grown people, people who the Bene Gesserit have overlooked the bloodline. She decided to forego the orders of her sisterhood to not have a male child because it was not time, according to the Bene Gesserit, for the Kwisatz Haderach to be born. And so he was put upon before he was even conceived, because Jessica knew before she even conceived fully, before she could have ever known, I will have a son. It says that in the book. She talks about it. What that means is that she decided to put upon her son the mantle of leading the universe. Because the prophecies of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood are not witchcraft or fucking like tea leaf reading or whatever the fuck. It's carefully designed, carefully crafted takeover of one person. And they've already seeded the galaxy. I'm trying to remember the name. The Missiona Protectiva. They've sent out all of these Bene Gesserit sisters to seed these less developed planets with these religious myths, all centering around the birth of this Kwisatz Haderach. And so he's born, and these Fremen have been prepared for the coming of the Kwisatz Haderach, for the coming of this person who will light the fire that ignites the galaxy and lead the Fremen. But of course, every other fucking place has been told the same thing. The Missionara Protectiva has just disseminated this false religious belief all over the galaxy. And it just happens to be the Fremen that Paul Atreides falls in with. So he's put upon before he's even born to bear a mantle that he never asked for. And then when he's born into that mantle, which is a secret mantle that he's not told about. And also the mantle of leadership over his father's house, and thus the protection of his line. And so Paul Atreides is kind of a tragic figure, both in the books and in my mind. If you read on in the Dune books, you see that Paul attains this kind of power that comes with being the Kwisatz Haderach, which is the ability to not necessarily see the future, but to see all futures, to see the outcomes of all possibilities, and to see into the past as if it were the present. So he's kind of this omniscient, not totally omniscient. There are blind spots in his vision, but he has a sense of omniscience that no being has ever had. He's the closest to a god that's ever lived, and yet he can't help but make decisions that destroy his family, basically. Now, those decisions eventually lead to his family once again moving out of this newer, less Fremen society that he had created back to the Fremen again. And his son, Leto II, named after his father, the Duke, who was killed in that Harkonnen Sardaukar raid we talked about at the very start of this. His son, Leto II, becomes the God Emperor, the immortal worm. He merges with the sandworms of Arrakis. He goes a step further than his father does and becomes a literal god, not a figurative god, an absolute literal god with dominion over the universe. And the further books talk about the reign and fall of Leto II. The Fremen are not necessarily the Bedouin. The Fremen have a lot of Bedouin influence in their design and culture. So don't look at it like they're Bedouin. Look at it like Frank Herbert was very inspired by Arabic culture, and in particular Bedouin tribesmen, when he came up with the idea for Dune, because he wanted the Fremen to have a sense of authenticity. And so he studied Bedouin desert tribes and saw how they lived and how they moved. And he wrote a lot of that into the Fremen. The golden path, yes. I will not stray from the golden path. You cannot stray. What's your analysis of Fade Ralpha? He was kind of an interesting foil to Paul, kind of a warning of what Paul could become. I agree. Fade Ralpha is meant to be the Harkonnen answer to Paul, right? He is sent along with the Beast Raban to Dune in order to destroy the Fremen uprising that's there and to secure the Harkonnen presence. So Yeah, Fade Ralpha is kind of like the dark. He's kind of like the dark shadow of Paul Atreides in a lot of ways, especially if you know how the book. I don't want to spoil things for people, but especially if you know how the Harkonnen line and the Atreides line are intrinsically linked and all of that. It's a very deep book. A lot of shit is explored, and it took me more than one reading of it to really fucking understand it. I've read Dune 6 times in my life, and the rest of the series twice. And I still feel like I could learn a whole lot more from the books. Duncan, Idaho sounds like a small rural town. Yeah. I think that might be on purpose, because Duncan really is, you know how like in films sometimes or shows, sometimes there'll be a character that's there and they're like the audience, right? They're meant to represent the audience. They're the representative of the audience in whatever the scenario is. They're supposed to be the most kind of relatable character in the books. Duncan Idaho is that. He is the only character that remains a central character throughout all of the books, and is the only character that bears witness to every bit of change that happens from the start of Dune to the end of Chapter House. He's endlessly cloned. He's a Gola. This Duncan is very disappointing to me. I love how Leto just, of course, becomes a power-mad fucking tyrant. Duncan isn't really in the first book very much. That's true. He plays a very small role in the first book. He actually dies very, well, not super early on, but relatively early on in the book. Dies. He loses his love. Yes, he does. He loses his love multiple times. He has multiple loves and has to experience the loss of lifelong love multiple times as a Gola. A very tragic figure. He dies off screen, so to say. Sure. But, well, he does die. He's killed there in that scene. And flesh from his body is taken to the Talaxu, and he's put in a Talaxu axolotl tank and rebuilt along with his memories. And he becomes a Gola, a creation of the Tlalaxu. I always have trouble saying their names. Tlalaxu. There you go. So he's killed. There's no like off screen and then he comes back. He's killed. Paul hears him die and mourns him. And then, well, I don't want to spoil. You want to learn how to play a balisette? It doesn't even exist? Is the balisette a real thing? I should be sleeping, but mystery pains and anxiety keeping me up. Highdeology helps me stay calm. Plus, I love hearing you talk Dune. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I love talking Dune. I'm not some kind of like font of endless knowledge about Dune, but I've read the book a bunch of fucking times. And a space mandolin, yeah. Yeah, I never knew if the balisette was just a kind of stringed instrument that was created for the book or if it's an actual thing. It's okay. Yeah. I always thought, what if there was a woman out there named Highdeology? There probably isn't, but that would be interesting. I had a bad date, so this is keeping my spirits up. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear about your bad date. Happy to keep your spirits up. This is not necessarily keeping my spirits up, but that's no fault of yours. My spirits have been in the toilet for a while, and so I'm smoking my spirits up. That seems to be helping. The back and forth that Lady Jessica and Dr. Yui had in the book, yeah. I mean, it's just a great fucking book. It's a great series of books, honestly. And I hope that the movie is good and brings a lot of attention to it. And people rediscover it like kind of what happened with The Lord of the Rings in the early 2000s. You know, there was a big resurgence in sales of that book, and a lot of new fans of that book and that universe were made. You know, and I'm kind of hoping for the same kind of resurgence and interest in Dune, because I think it deserves it. Yeah, it happens. I just smoked a blunt. At least you have the love of a good woman. That's true. It's interesting how when the book was written, jihad didn't have the negative connotations it does now in America. The book is basically through the perspective of the religious insurgents. Yes. I mean, it's like, yeah. It is an interesting thing. It's also interesting to note that the term jihad has been excised from the Denis Villeneuve version of Dune and been replaced with the term crusade. Why? Guess we didn't want to offend anybody? Well, see, because here's the thing. Here's why people would be offended. A jihad is spoiler alert if you care. Tune out now. A jihad is carried out in Paul Atreides' name that spreads, and he realizes through his prescience that there's no way for him to stop it. There's nothing that he can do, no matter what course of action he takes, that the universe will be scoured in his name. And he, through no real fault of his own, becomes a tyrant, basically. And so he becomes a bad guy. And his progeny becomes a bad guy. So that would imply that the jihad was bad and thus probably offend Muslims. No, a jihad and a crusade are not the same thing. You're absolutely right. A jihad is a holy war fought for doctrine's sake, and a crusade is a war to take over the land of what you consider to be a heathen religion and make it into a Christian or whatever. It's completely different. I think it would offend right-wingers as well because of the Islamic connections. Yeah, that's the funny thing about it. That's probably why it was, because it would offend Muslims and it would offend right-wingers who are like, jihad? What is this? Some Muslim movie, man? Get me out of here. But they hear crusade and they're like, yeah, that's right. He's a good Christian warrior. They're hiding it in this, they don't just come right out and say Jesus. But they do say crusade. So we know that he's serving Jesus, even if he don't know the right name for him. What a fucking dumb place we live in. Where like literal Frank Herbert has to be edited. One of the most brilliant writers that was ever born on the fucking planet Earth has to be edited so that people don't fucking take it the wrong way or whatever. How stupid. Ugh. This is America. Most right-wingers would avoid Dune because of the sand. No, dude. Trust me. If Dune drops this year, everybody gonna go see it. People are hungry for movies right now. They're hungry. Hungry. And I'm telling you, like a big action spectacle, dude, what do you think? It's only going to be lefties that go to Dune? Come on now, buddy. I hope you're right, Bryant. I'm open to the idea that it might suck, but all signs point to it being a pretty fucking good movie. They wouldn't be so protective and selective of its release if they were sitting on a big turd. They'd just throw it out there on HBO Max and be done with it. So, yeah, I'm hoping that that's a good sign. And that they're not hiding it so that they can rework it a bunch of times to try and make it make sense or something. But hey, dude, I never get my hopes all the way up. Yep, we're talking Villeneuve here. We're talking to somebody that has, I think, the right kind of vision, the right kind of eye, the right kind of directorial kind of provenance to make him a good candidate for a Dune movie. What comes out of him? I don't know. I don't know. I hope that he fought really, really hard against that jihad shit. I hope he really fought hard to keep that in. To keep the language as it is and shit. I really like Jessica and Duncan. I hope they get to play as powerful of a secret role in the movie as they do in the books. I agree. And I all signs are tipping towards that being the case. Very little is known about Dune, and the people that have seen early cuts of it are obviously tight-lipped people because they're industry insiders. But there have been people like crazily poring over every detail of the trailers and footage, like short teasers that have been released and stuff. And all signs point to Lady Jessica playing a decent-sized role in... You got to remember, this is the first movie, and this is going to encapsulate the first half of Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune will end right around the time that Paul and Jessica escape into the desert through the storm and have their first run-in with the sandworm. Spoiler alert. So it is part of a two-part film that will eventually be the entirety of a Dune film. And if both of those do well, the chances of us getting a Children of Dune or Dune Messiah go up. Jessica, yeah, she is pretty much the protagonist of the book for the first half of it or so. I would agree. And then she hands it over to Paul. The voice could either be an incredible use of stimulating audio or a cringe fest. Have you ever seen Lynch's Dune, Jason? Or nah? Just give me a yay or nah. You have? I thought it was done pretty well in that, to be honest with you. I wouldn't really overly criticize their interpretation of the voice in that. Used kind of a digital distortion of the voice to deepen it, and then added in layered echoes of whispers of the same, when a person was hearing it. I thought it was effective in the Lynch Dune, so we'll see. I'd like to see it done differently in Denis Villeneuve's Dune. A little more, I don't know, spine tingly. Well, it has to have that feminine touch. It is, after all, a power that only the Bene Gesserit sisterhood have. Except for one person, of course. Apparently, why Lynch's Dune was a flop was because he gave over too much creative control to other producers. Yeah, he hates the movie because he feels like he sold out in signing his name to it. And in pretty much every interview that I've seen him talk about his adaptation of Dune, he's had nothing but negative things to say about it. Now, not necessarily negative things to say about the people he worked with. In fact, he would go on to work with Kyle MacLachlan on Twin Peaks and a bunch of other fucking shit. So, you know what I mean? Obviously, he had esteem for the people that he worked with, but he felt like he, once again, like was said in the comment, he felt like he gave over too much creative vision to someone else and allowed producers to have too much of a voice in the film. I think that Lynch's Dune has its moments that don't play well, and I think it has some things in it that don't make a whole lot of sense. Like, it basically invents this thing that doesn't exist in the book, where Paul trains the Fremen to use their voice as a weapon, and then his name becomes a killing word. Like, that's a famous line from Lynch's Dune that appears nowhere in the book, where someone uses this microphone thing that's hooked to this gun, and he says Muad'Dib, and it blows this piece of rock apart. And Kyle MacLachlan as Paul has this inner dialogue: "My name is a killing word." It's like, I always thought that was such a weird thing. It's like, why layer that in? Why? They have fucking sandworms. Like, they don't need a gun they can shoot. They can shoot the same guns the other guys have. Yeah, the weirding way. I will teach you the weirding way. It's like, what? This is not in the book. What? The weirding way? You can't teach Bene Gesserit shit to people that are not Bene Gesserit like bread. That's the whole point of the book. But like, he just kind of injected it. I don't know if it was him or some other producer or something, but somebody just like injected that whole thing, and it's a big part of the storyline of Lynch's Dune. It doesn't ruin it. It just diverges from the book. Right. No, he teaches the Feta Keen part of the weirding way, but it's not used as like some fucking like laser gun. Yeah, no, he trains Feta Keen to use parts of the weirding way in the book is not what it is in the fucking movie. It's not like attainment of the voice or whatever the fuck. It's the battle shit. like the calming of your heart rate and moving like water and all of that shit. Like he trains them that way to fight. I will not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. No, I can't remember what it is after that. As far as I can get. I know the Mentats mantra. I can get through that one, but I can't do the litany against fear all the way through. I used to be able to do it when I was a teenager, but have since lost the ability. Maybe I'll just learn it again. It wouldn't be that hard. I have most of it. Never forgot the Mentat one, though. It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. It is by the juice of the safu that the lips acquire stains, the thoughts acquire speed, the stains become a warning. It is by will alone. No, that's not it. It's by will alone I set my mind in motion. It's by the juice of the safu that the thoughts acquire speed, the lips acquire stains, the stains become a warning. It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. That's pretty cool. It's god-awful hard to adapt some of the best books. That's why we'll probably never see a film version of Confederacy of Dunces. I wouldn't say never. Never say never. My favorite Dune Messiah quote, "Here lies a toppled god. His fall was not a small one. We did but build his pedestal, a narrow and a tall one." Yeah. Litany Against Fear is like a secular prayer. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, the Mortal Kombat movie looks like it might be okay. It might be pretty dope. I don't know. Maybe. That's a maybe. A hard maybe for me on Mortal Kombat. So this is going to be my last cigarette before I go inside and call it a night. So let's wrap it up, folks. Because it's cold out here. It is chilly. I wonder who Alia will be cast as. Love her as well. Hail Alia of the Knife. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tough casting because she is a toddler, basically, a 5 or 6 year old who is supposed to have the experiential history of all women or whatever the fuck. She's got like insanely old and powerful and knowledgeable. Yeah, but who's going to play child Alia? First time I saw a sandworm, I cormed and shitted and farted pant. Jason, we gonna Dota or what? When I finish this, are we gonna Augre Magi? Is that gonna happen or no? Don't get it twisted, Jason. Are we gonna Augre Magi? Okay, we're gonna Augre Magi then. I have high hopes for Javier as Stilgar. I mean, I have high hopes for the whole fucking movie. You guys hear the coyotes? So there's a dog barking at them, but there's a coyote pack howling. I think Oscar Isaac is okay. He looks a little young for the part, but appropriately grizzled and manly. I really liked the idea of just getting Jurgen Prochnow to fucking reprise his role. He's still alive and still looks fucking amazing. Would have made an amazing Leto, but guess it didn't happen. Leto or Leto? I say Leto. And in the audiobooks that I bought, they say Leto. So that's I feel vindicated by the fact that a whole audiobook series calls him Leto. All right, I'm done. I'm not even gonna finish this cigarette. It's too cold. Good night.